We will be getting underway here in a little bit, so just hang tight.
Welcome back. I heard you were traveling.
I was in the Netherlands last week. I got here Saturday, so I got up at like 5 a.m. Cologne time. I got here at like 10:30.
I don't know what made up
I wasn't there when it started, but I came in at 6
You're also a salsa dancer or no? Yeah. All right, I'll see you later.
I didn't know. Oh, well, I mean.
Okay, good evening, everybody. Welcome to the first Tampa Devs actual informational educational meeting of 2023. That should have a 3 at the end of the year. You know, you can't win them all.
Still working on it.
Yeah. All right, so here's today's agenda. We're going to do a little quiz. And the winner of the quiz will be awarded with a ticket to the CIVO Navigate Conference, which is happening next week. We're going to talk a bit about upcoming events, give you some updates on Tampa Devs, do a retrospective on 2022, and jump into Andre Crabb's main talk, which is what you're all here for. Thank you for coming out, Andre.
That's what I'm here for.
Yes. Awesome. So welcome to 2023. This is our second event of the year. This is a picture of our first event of the year, which was back at Armature Works. And it was fantastic. You can almost see like 1 pixel in this image. But everyone, like, we had a huge turnout, we had a wonderful time, so it was great. So if this is your first Tampa Devs meeting, you may be wondering, like, what exactly is this? We are a community of software developers who are seeking to grow together, and basically that equates to putting on educational and networking and career building events for the benefit of the Tampa Bay community, completely for free. There's no membership fees or anything associated with it. We just want to help. So it's game time. Where's Amar?
Do you have the link? You just have the link?
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's host. So, oh, that's awesome. You want to explain how it works?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is the way the QuickSee works. If you go to quicksee.org and you enter this code, which is 174869, you will be able to participate in the quiz, which I know is very exciting because you may win free stuff. So once we get a good number of people in here, we will commence. And I will hand it off to Amar to MC.
Thank you. Be sure to get on Wi-Fi. And let's get the high-speed Verizon internet. Let me know if anybody needs a couple more seconds. So I think a lot of these are going to be fairly easy questions. So I think the challenge is going to be who is going to answer as fast. All right, I think we're almost there. I don't see anybody else. Yep, we got 30 players. Yep. Are you think we're ready to start, or? Yes. All right. All right, we're going to start. All right, 30 seconds for this question. All right. That was a bit of an easy one. Alright. Yeah, yeah. You gotta be quick. Which of the following is not a JavaScript engine? Hopefully this one is a little bit tricky. So, all right, let's see. All right, Michael. Michael, I see you. All right. Which of the following is not a front-end language? I think this one's easy. I think this one's fairly easy.
So applets don't count?
Sorry?
Applets don't count?
No, not anymore.
Oh man.
That's too old. Alright, I think we only have a couple of more questions after this. Michael is still in the leaderboard. I see you, Michael. Alright, what is another name for JavaScript? Hopefully, this one might be a little bit tricky to some people. I didn't want to make this too hard. All right, Michael is still in the lead.
You guys gonna just let him do that?
This one is another easy one. Basically, I made this pretty easy. The whole point of this is just to see who is the fastest, who has the fastest thumb. So, finally, playing video games has finally helped, I hope. Alright, so we all know it's Chrome, hopefully. Alright, for all those OGs that still use Opera, Opera is great too. Alright, I think this is going to be the last question. Let's see. So get your thumbs ready. On your mark, get set, go. Yeah, I'm sure we all heard the news today about the Bucks. So, which of the following is out of place? So, another easy one. All right. Let's see. Michael is still in the lead. I'm not sure who a JS222 is, but he was pretty close.
It's a close race.
Yeah. Oh, wait. Is there one more? No. Okay.
All right, where's Michael at? Come on over here. We'll hook you up. Well done, everyone. Okay, so we've got all the festivities out of the way. Let's talk about upcoming events. So next week is Civo Navigate, and this is the conference that we actually just gave Michael a ticket for, which is very exciting. So if you use this code and you want to get a ticket, check this out. This is a very cool cloud native software development conference. Steve Wozniak will be there. And you can use this code to get 50% off if you so wish. As it happens, both Vincent and I are going to be giving a talk there about how we built Tampa Devs, so that's very exciting. We also have the Synapse Summit coming up. If you go to go.tampa.dev/synapse, you can get 20% off your tickets if you want to attend this conference. And we will be posting a copy of the slides in the Slack if you don't get the opportunity to actually get a picture. And on top of that, we have the Tampa Bay Innovation Week finale party, which we can go there if you go to go.tampa.dev/tbinnoweek. On the 22nd of this month is our next Tampa Devs event, so we'll be doing another networking event, like a meet and greet at Armature Works. These are fairly popular, and it's a really nice way to just kind of casually network. And then on the 15th of March, we have our career forum. This will be at Tico Hall on USF's campus, and this is a great place if you're looking for tips on professional development or career building advice. We'll be doing a whole panel there that's just full of that great content. So, it is the beginning of 2023. Let's have a look at how we did in 2022. So this is a picture of our first ever meetup as Tampa Devs. You can see it's fairly small. It's in a bar, right?
Yeah, it's in a
So
bar.
we've grown a bit since then. So we've had a number of events throughout 2022 that are just really excellent, like amazing levels of turnout. This was one of my favorites at Sparkman Wharf with ReliaQuest, and that's at PwC. That's the ML Talk. This is TADAX. So it's pretty awesome. We've grown a lot, and we've been touching a lot of lives in a positive way. So how does that look by the numbers? So we did a little end of year survey, and we asked people some questions. We got about 40 people responding. So by and large, people seem to enjoy Tampa Devs. It's mostly male at the moment, as you'd expect, and about 55%, as you'd expect, we're trying to make the changes in the field. That's the purpose here. A lot of our member base is new to the Tampa Bay area within the past 3 years or so, and it's a pretty diverse mix of different career experiences and skill levels, which is very exciting. We did help a number of folks find work through Tampa Devs, so 18% of job-seeking respondents, Tampa Devs helped them find that. We know that about 12 members total.
Yeah, it's about 12 members total.
Yeah, not all of them filled out the survey, but people feel welcomed at Tampa Devs events overall, and they feel like the topics are relevant and useful. And you can also see that our Slack has grown considerably. We've been moving at a fairly steady clip, up and to the right, which is what we want to see. The same is true for our website. So we've got about 1,000 people that have, come to the site, both the job board and our main website. So I'm going to hand it over to Vincent for some talk about finances.
Can you guys hear me? Sounds good? Okay. All right, so I haven't done an actual presentation in a while, actually, now that I think about it. Just like a refresher now. So we were doing a survey at the end of the year, kind of asking people things that we can improve on, et cetera, et cetera. And one thing that we looked at is hey, we should try other foods other than Publix, right? So we did pizza today, so there's that. But in case you're curious, how much stuff actually costs to run Tampa Devs, I want to give you more transparency and what it takes to actually run it. And there's gonna be some big numbers, just it's just all transparency, just what we're doing behind the scenes. So it might be a shell shock to you guys, but here it is. So I did all of our financial reporting for the year because I had to do it for accounting, and we're actually set up as a nonprofit pending 501c3 status. So that's literally all of our expenses for the year, which you're wow, it's just a meetup, right? But we do a lot more than just that. We host hackathons, we host tech workshops, we do a lot of other stuff. So since I started Tampa Devs, we actually spent about $13,000. I mean, you think this is pretty insane, but I'll kind of break down why we've spent this much so far. I know you're a meetup, $13,000. Where does that money even go to, right? It sounds absurd. And when I looked at the number, I'm yeah, it does sound kind of absurd.
And to be fair, I've been pretty terrible with finances, so this is all coming back to me now. Anyways, don't worry, I'm making 6 figures, but it's okay. But anyways, here's the actual breakdown of things. But I want to give you more insight jokes aside of like where that actual money goes, and a lot of it does go to startup costs. This is kind of our breakdown. So TADX is our hackathon, and probably about 40% of our funds went through there last year. Legal and accounting is like stuff we have to do for nonprofit work, for setting up through Sundays, through also getting a trademark as well, and a couple of like accounting fees that we do with our CPA. Merchandise is just basically shirts, bandanas, hats, whatever. So we basically sell that at cost almost, and just basically make what we buy. And we give away just as much stuff as well. Events actually don't really count for a lot of our actual cost itself, because we get a lot of venues donating kind, like HUC. I don't know if Lynn's here, but thanks, Lynn. Community tools is like running through Meetup. We also use Shopify. We use a couple other tools as well, like G Suite for managing emails. It's just a bunch of other things behind the scenes. And then marketing services is like printing out flyers, doing stuff for like Tampa Devs, or doing stuff for the hackathon, getting promotional material out there, getting design work done, et cetera, for like the logo, for like the initial inception. So this is actually one of our invoices from Embark Collective, in case you're wondering like how much it was actually to host that weekend. So it was originally gonna be $2,700. And you might be thinking like, why didn't you just get a free venue at some university? But we actually contacted like 12 venues, and this was the only one that panned out after 6 months of doing it nonstop. So, and I actually got a 50% discount through one of the member companies there. So it came out to $1,400 just to host the hackathon over a weekend. And we were kind of learning things as we were going, so it was kind of like an accepted like loss at that point, since we never hosted a hackathon. The food itself was $1,000. We probably could have went a little cheaper, but it was our first hackathon. And then we also got a food meal donated by one of the sponsors, so that was like an extra $500. So like having like every time you have like 100 people in a room, it's just like it's a lot of food. But anyways, the actual hackathon itself cost us like $4,500. So $1,000 went in food, $1,500 in venue. We had to get banners like as a requirement from our global sponsor, flyers for marketing material to go to USF and UT. We had to do some like video editing work, capturing stuff, which is like almost on par as like hiring a wedding photographer or videographer, but it's really good for long-term marketing, so we just went with it. And then the local prize pool of like $1,250, we actually got that donated through a bunch of different sponsor companies, but we still paid out like $4,500. And then merchandise actually costs a lot more than you think, but that's how much it actually costs us. In case you're curious, we don't really make anything on it. We just kind of sell it, and then we give away just as much stuff for giveaways and like building, relationships with like other entities in town. So that's like literally like how much it costs like buy swag, and that's just literally just for hats. Not the cat included. That's my cat though. My cat's priceless though. But like everything aside, like hats do cost a little bit. We pretty much sold it with a little bit of markup. Shirts cost like $15 each, and then like bandanas cost like $12. But yeah, then you have to buy it all ahead of time in bulk. That's just how it is, to get better rates. Believe it or not, stickers are actually expensive. I paid $1,000 in stickers already, but it really paid itself off, honestly, in terms of marketing. You're starting out something for the first time. So we have a lot this time around that will probably last all this year. But yeah, stickers, in case you're wondering, they cost like 33 cents each. I mean, Andre just bought some stickers for like $1 each, like getting one off, but stickers are kind of expensive. But yeah, we don't really want to charge people for stickers. I know people do that, but we just don't want to. And then we have legal stuff set up. So we're actually set up as a not-for-profit on Sundays, and we're actually pending 501c3 status, so that should help us with like grant funding or whatever. We also have like an open collective page, so this is like stuff that we actually have like some of our members helping us to kind of like help push the mission forward. So Nicholas Adams, Connor Trevion, Thomas Powell, and Tony Ruiz, and Rishi. Sorry, I couldn't read that. Yeah, this is definitely helping us out a lot. Like every little bit counts. Like we're just doing what we can. Like we're donating a lot of our free times because we like doing this. Yeah, and then this is just like stuff from our merch store. This is stuff from our job board, which only made like $4 because we're still starting out.
It's $4 we didn't have.
Yeah, so running all this stuff is actually, we're just trying to get ways to fund Tampa Devs, and we're just exploring every avenue possible. We're just like, oh, what else can we do to make money? Just like to fund like events and stuff like that. And I'll go over like kind of like a breakdown of like long-term how much stuff costs, just in case you guys were curious. We haven't made anything on sponsors yet, although we've had sponsors like donate food and like venue in kind, but we never got like a single dollar from anybody. So just financial learnings that we learned. Yeah, so when you start up anything, just like it's expensive because you have to design logos and you're basically starting a business, but like a more complicated business because it's a nonprofit and it needs to get audited by the IRS. That's basically what a nonprofit is, just a complicated business. Hackathons are expensive and overhead is much lower, and I'll go over like the overhead stuff. So Meetup, we actually have like 2 different Meetup things. So we have like a Meetup Pro account with like all of our main stuff that we host. We also have like subgroups that I kind of acquired over time, just like heading up like other Meetup groups that like they're no longer there or whatever. So we're looking to expand to other topics in industry, like specifically through like front end, security, and back end down the road. But we just have those parked for now, basically, and we pay like $200 for like all 3 combined. But our actual Meetup itself costs $360, which is kind of weird. Like you think like, oh, this is cheaper, but it's actually more expensive. It's confusing. It's like Meetup is really weird. Anyways, so in case you're curious about like food and cost per venue, the cost of living here has gone up by a lot, and so that's why like getting sponsors is much harder because like everyone's cutting costs and whatever. Yeah, so like venues are $0 to $500 each. It fluctuates a lot, just depending on like what we can get donated. And actually, we didn't pay for really any venues last year besides the hackathon. So, and then as well as food, we had a lot of food covered from sponsors too. So just in case you're curious. And then long term, this is kind of what we want to do with funding when we do get it, which is like building more better experience for everybody, building like more hackathons this year if we get like a venue donated in kind. That would help out a lot to host it this year because it was kind of expensive last year. Support for the other chapters in town, logistical financial support for like other meetups like the Job at AWS group or like the data science group if they want to host events and get venues, because like getting venues and like going through like financial logistics is like really complicated. And then when we do get all our funding, just like issue scholarships. So this is just like what people are saying about Tampa Devs. This is just what people actually told me in person when I started it, like 1.5 years ago at some point or other. Everything from people meeting their girlfriend, boyfriend through Tampa Devs, through winning a hackathon, through free food, and people. Well, a lot of us actually started actually as originally as Latin dancers, believe it or not. I just met a bunch of people in the Latin dance community. Actually, a lot of us are here. Like Jonah's here, Rome is here, Andre, speaker, is also a Latin dancer. Erica, Haritha, like there's like 6 of us here. Anyways, yeah. In case you want to know, fun fact, and just some things you guys are seeing post survey. Just some awesome things. And that's pretty much it. I want to hand it back off to Charlton. I didn't want to like bore you guys with too much stuff, but
It's all good.
yeah.
We're in a good spot still. Like, we're not saying any of this because Tampa Devs is like in jeopardy or anything. We're like 2 strapping young tech workers. We can bankroll this, but it would be helpful if you could at least put in a good word with like your companies or something about all the work that we're doing. So speaking about helping out and doing all that, we have the Contributor Corner. This is a new thing for 2023 because a bunch of people have been doing really useful work on our various open source repositories, and we would like to recognize them for what they've done. So Harithra over there added these nice little icons to our website, which is great. Zuza added, she designed the UI for this new widget that we've got on the homepage. It shows jobs on the job board. Priyanshi updated some links to our Slack invite. Shinki added this organizer onboarding page for us, which is very helpful. Manuel has been just like the OG of like the website. He fixed this insane dependency hell that was preventing our website from building. And then he's also like the #2 contributor to the site behind Vincent. Speaking of Vincent, he made this nice sponsor grid, and he also set up the Open Collective page. And then I just do a bunch of invisible infrastructure things. So yeah, if you guys want to, dip your toes in open source and maybe contribute to Tampa Devs, you can check out our GitHub org. We've got like 10 repos, and you can probably find something that matches your interest and skill set. Speaking of sharing your skill set, if you want to do a talk at a Tampa Devs event, please email us or talk to me and Vincent. We would love to host your talk. We still have some slots open for this year, I believe, right?
Yeah, we got slots after like May. I think.
After May, so you're more than welcome to bring any technical content you like. And then on top of that, we have some other cool stuff. So one of the things that we really are passionate about at Tampa Devs is supporting our various partner groups and organizations. So we launched Tampa.dev, which is like a lightweight directory of other tech meetup groups in the area. You can go there, and every one of them has its own little card. So it's a great location if like someone asks you like, hey, where are all the cool tech meetups in Tampa? You just send Tampa.dev, and they're all listed there. We also, of course, have our official job board. This is great, and we have a store for merch at store.tampa.dev. You can donate to us in Open Collective if you're interested, if you go to tampa.dev/donate. And you can connect with us on any of these various social media platforms. We're pretty much Tampa Devs everywhere. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Andre so that we can get on with our main talk. Give him a hand, everybody.
That one's not me, but the rest of them.
It's him in spirit.
Clicker thingy in G 10+ years.
10 years since Clicker.
Yeah, this is gonna be fun.
There you go. I hope that HDMI works.
You know what? So do I.
Let's find out if it does. If it doesn't, that'll be an issue.
Oh yeah, it did. It did earlier. It just took a second. Keyboard setup assistant. I do not much. Nothing yet.
I have faith.
My computer thinks it's going. Alright, today we're talking about displays. No. Alright, bring that back. Slideshow. That button. Mouse back here. Let's try this clicker thingy. Cool. How you guys doing?
Awesome.
That good, huh? How you guys doing? Good. All right. This is. Don't worry. We all. Oh, I should use this. I know.
Can you turn off your do you have like a screen dimmer and it like?
Oh, I've got flux.
Oh, yeah, you got flux on there.
Or they called it night shift. Boom, is that better? And we can all get blinded by the blue light. Nice. Hope you all wear blue blockers. I wear blue blockers most of the time. Cool. I'm a mobile developer. So I'll talk a little bit more about me in a second. I'm a front-end tech lead for a company called Alliance Laundry Systems. We build laundry machines for lots of people across the world, which is pretty cool. Standing right in front of the speaker is weird. So this talk is about cross-platform app development. The future is finally here. I've been doing mobile development for about 10 years, so I'm really excited about the current state of mobile development. Who here is a mobile developer? Anybody? or wants to be, or thinks it's cool? Who here's like okay, lots of people think it's cool, that's cool. I'm just curious, like back end, who's back end? Who's front end? Okay, so got some front end devs. If you're front end, this talk totally applies to you as well. If you're back end, now you'll just know a little bit more about what your front end people do, at least the mobile guys. Let's see if this clicker works. Look at that. All right, so quick outline about this talk. I'm gonna give you a brief intro about me. Then we're gonna just go down the line. Android development, iOS development, cross-platform development as it was when it first came out, and then modern cross-platform development after it got a little bit better. And then we're gonna talk about some bleeding edge cross-platform development stuff, which blows my mind and is so, so cool. At least it gets me excited. I love efficiency. I love doing things once, right? Not 7 times. So we're gonna talk a little bit about that. Some takeaways for you guys as we get to the end of this talk and as we go through it. Keep these in mind. I was supposed to talk last year, so it says 2022. Pretend that says 2023. Cross-platform app development in 2023 is really cool. You can kill 2 or more birds with 1 stone in life and in code. So this is like digital nomad / mobile development talk. Same kind of idea. Constant, never-ending improvement. Keep up with the market, right? Improve your skills and just keep up with the market because the market changes a lot, especially now we have ChatGPT and AI. It's only going to grow faster, right? So you got to be innovating and just learning and keeping up with things. And the bottom line is the choice is yours. You can do nothing or you can do the most bleeding edge, coolest thing that's happening right now, right? So keep that in mind through this talk and also just as you leave here, and I'll put this slide up again at the end, but keep that in mind. Okay, let's dive in. So a little bit about me. I went to UC Berkeley, California. While I was there, I interned at Amazon and worked on Android, and I worked at Apple and worked on iPad, on iOS. So from the get-go, I was mobile, pretty much liked it ever since. Also, I never specialized. So during my time at Berkeley and even the work I did, and especially after that, I never picked only iOS or only Android like most developers do, right? A lot of web and front-end developers, I learned, are full stack, which you do front-end, you do some back-end, and you do database, right? I never learned that. In mobile, you don't really have front-end or full-stack mobile devs. But I knew I liked doing a lot of things, and so I never specialized in either one, and that just helped me throughout my career. So my first job out of college, I was working at Pandora, and I joined the one team at Pandora that did everything. We did Android, we did iOS, we even did some JavaScript, TypeScript. These are some of the things I worked on. You can see Ford on the top right, the Ford integration. Bottom right, Chromecast, we redesigned that, that was fun. CarPlay, I wrote the CarPlay integration for Pandora once we added our premium offering. BMW integrations, Pebble Watch. Does anybody have a Pebble Watch or know what it is?
You're gonna make me cry.
One person?
Dude, my first app ever was on a Pebble Watch.
Yeah, nice.
Coffee counter. You just increment how many coffee. Like it crashed.
Yeah, cool, man. Yeah, so yeah, we had all the devices, man. The reason why I think Pandora got so big is because they integrated with like every head unit possible. And then they did not innovate and keep up with the market, and guess what? Spotify came and destroyed it. So, you know, lesson learned. All right, so after that, I decided I wanted to be a digital nomad. I was like, I want to get out of here, I want to leave. And what's interesting about my time as a developer and my time as just like my life, the way it progressed, and as a digital nomad, it kind of fits the same principles of like 2 birds with 1 stone. So I was living in Oakland after 3 years of working for Pandora, working on Android and iOS. I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. I want to go do this digital nomad thing. And I was like, I don't know how I'm going to make it work. My company's not going to let me go, blah, blah, blah. So eventually I decided I'm leaving anyway, whatever it takes. So I changed jobs to the company's called iFit. They own Nordic Track, they own Proform, they own Gold's Gym. They used to own Ultra Shoes, but they sold that one off. And this was my first dive into cross-platform development. So Xamarin is cross-platform development written in C# by Microsoft. And it's okay, it's not great. but it is what it is. But it's interesting, as I was writing this talk, I'm like, man, my life just follows this path, because my work, I started doing cross-platform development, and in life, I was like digital nomad. So it's like I was doing 2 birds with 1 stone in work, and I was doing 2 birds with 1 stone just in life, working, traveling, going to Italy, Ecuador, Mexico, Colombia, Bolivia. Never thought I'd go to Bolivia in a million years, and there I am, 45 minutes south of the capital, working on a laptop in this valley with like 12 other people, and we're all just working there for 6 weeks. It was absolutely amazing. I really, really loved it. Same thing, Colombia, all of these were at least 4 weeks per country, and I did this for about 2 years. Traveling, working, still earning an American salary while I'm in South America or Europe. Really, really cool. So if any of you have like ambition to travel, I highly recommend it. Obviously, ask me any questions after the talk or on Slack. After doing that for a couple years, I decided I wanted to kind of settle down. So I joined Alliance, the company I'm still at today. We own Speed Queen. So if any of you live in an apartment building, you might have Speed Queen machines. If any of you went to a college and lived on campus, your dorms might have had Speed Queen machines. We're the biggest manufacturer of laundry machines in the world. We have like 4 other brands at least. And we also supply like hospitals, fire departments, hotels. And here it was a little bit of everything. So I was living in Puerto Rico. I was traveling and working in like the British Virgin Islands. That was fun, literally working on a boat in the middle of nowhere. And then I moved to Tampa as well. So a little bit of everything. And with this company, I was doing everything. So I did Android, I did iOS. We moved into React Native, and we're starting to get into Expo, which I'm going to talk about, which is super cool. So I started out as a mobile developer, then COVID happened, and I was the only mobile developer left. So good thing I could do everything, because I did iOS and Android. I was the only mobile dev for about 2 years more. We finally started growing, and now we're doing some React Native and Expo stuff, which is super, super cool. So all of that to say, this is kind of a summary slide, just to show you kind of my experience. So I've done a lot of stuff. I have some side projects out on the right where I've dived into the back end and Firebase and Node, written some of my own servers. So yeah, touched a lot of stuff over the past 10 years. So with that, we're going to dive into mobile stuff. Any questions at all before I keep going?
How does your employer leverage mobility? Like, I'm trying to figure out a manufacturing company with an appliance. Why would they need a front end and back end developer outside of their, let's say, website and payment systems? Like, it's really curious to me that you had such a great experience with this company.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
How do they leverage that? What do they
So we manufacture the machines.
Right.
And they're smart machines. So in whatever laundromat, they're hooked up to Firebase. And so the owners can track all of their stats, right? Spins per day, revenue,
Wow.
all of that.
Okay.
Yeah, through the web. And so then we have a mobile app for that we're building. There's also the customer side, the end user, that's us. We can pay for the machines with our phone, gain points. If you go live on campus, they might give you like money through the campus, right? So,
Thank you.
yeah. So on the other hand, I think.
How do you write out your code on a laptop all the time?
One finger after the other, man. With Macs, you get like multiple desktops, right? So you can swipe.
Yeah.
Keyboard shortcuts are super awesome. I love Vim. Oh my god, I love Vim. Command Tab works. Expose, which you don't get on Windows. Love Expose. It's great. Yeah.
Seems crazy.
And that was on the 13-inch back in the day. And then you can get external monitors, right? You can get like little 15-inch travel monitors. Cool. I'm gonna grab my water bottle real quick. I'm gonna keep doing this for several minutes. This water bottle motivates me every day. It says, "Good morning. Hydrate yourself. Remember your goals," and it keeps going so you actually finish it. I probably could have a bigger one, but I don't think I want a bigger one. All right, so let's talk about mobile. As far as mobile market share, and this was, I don't know the exact dates on these, but they can't be too far off. So that blue line that starts at the top left and goes down, that's desktop, it's web. So that's declining a lot. ever since mobile came out, which is the green line, which is going up a lot. So mobile is about 58% market share, then you got web, and then you got tablet at the very bottom. This is why companies are going mobile first, right? We used to do everything on the web, and now companies are starting to do mobile first, and some companies don't even have a website at all, right? Lots of mobile apps. We all know this. We all use our phones every day. We're all addicted to them, so figured. As far as market share goes by operating system, Android actually dominates iOS. Android is more worldwide than iOS. It's cheaper, it's more affordable, more accessible to more people. So iOS is only about 20%. This is a really interesting slide. It talks about the operating system update version adoption. So you can see on the left on iOS, sharp spikes when they release a new version. And then as soon as the next one comes out, it's another sharp spike. This means that iOS users update, oh, fun.
It's coming back.
It means iOS users update their operating systems faster than Android users. On the right, you can see those slow curves. What does that mean for developers? As a developer, if you're an Android developer, you have to support 4 versions of Android for your app if you want to capture the majority of your user base. On iOS, most companies, I think, only support the last 2. And you can use the new versions of Swift, the new language features, the new operating system features sooner because you don't have to keep supporting the old stuff, right? And you can delete any code that was pre, iOS 12 and start using features in Swift or whatever that were iOS 13 and onwards, and remove any conditional statements you put. So I preferred iOS for a lot of reasons, but this is an interesting one. So let's talk about Android a little bit. Hope you guys can see this. Hope it's big enough. Android, you do it in Android Studio, which is, man, I used to use Eclipse back in the day. Anybody ever use Eclipse? Jesus. Yeah, terrible, right? Now you do it in Android Studio, which is based on IntelliJ, which is good, also not great, but it's decent. So this is IntelliJ, Android Studio. Your view level objects are the activities and fragments. And then you have intents, which are objects that pass data around, which have bundles of data, so you got bundles. And then your views are written in XML, which I think is terrible, but here we are. And then you got resources for like your strings and your images and your backgrounds and whatever. And then this is Java, and then Kotlin, which actually I think I have a slide on that. So the UI development, Android still uses XML. It's barely changed in a decade. It's outdated. To me, it's frustrating, and it doesn't have a lot of good programmatic ability. So if you're familiar with React, you know you can make components and you can pass props down into them. Almost impossible with Android. It's like, it drives me nuts if you haven't noticed already. You can't write components. So you can use like the GUI to like drag and drop things to like build your UI that way, but it's gonna make your XML even worse than if you wrote it yourself. So I don't recommend that. So you can't really, there's no great way to do it besides doing it programmatically, and even that, or it's just not. Anyway, frustrating. But it is what it is, right? And I'm sure there might be some better ways, but honestly, the past 10 years, I have not seen this evolve very much, which is interesting coming from Google. So the pros, though, you have a bigger worldwide user base, right? If you want to write an app and get it out to a lot of people, it's great. It's cheaper for developers. You don't have to pay the cost, at least it's cheaper, the cost to be an Android developer, and if you're monetizing your app, Google takes less money than Apple will. And you have more access to operating system level things. So you can do a lot more stuff at that level in Android rather than iOS. iOS is a lot more protected. The cons are, in my opinion, that it's Android. I'm just an Apple boy, if you haven't noticed. And it's Java. And Java, the language evolves very, very slowly, right? There's things that we just can't do in Java that you can do in Swift or JavaScript or Kotlin or whatever. But you can even see in this picture in the bottom right, Kotlin is the 12th most popular coding language from whenever I picked this up, and it grew by negative 0.2%. So it's actually getting less popular, and it's supposed to be like the hot new way to do Android, right? So not doing too great. The App Store, it's a lot noisier. There's so many apps on the Android App Store because it's easier to get into. So there's just so much stuff in there that you might be like, what is this? XML UI layouts, I'm not a fan, but it is what it is. Programmatic UI is challenging. The operating system versions are fragmented across the user base. There's a lot more types of phones, right? So Android is the operating system. There's tons of manufacturers of phones that run Android, and they all can tweak the operating system however they kind of want to. So your just devices are fragmented, right? You'll have a bug that works on like a Pixel, but it's broken on a Samsung Galaxy. Samsung, they have lots of problems as far as that goes. But it's just the way it is. So it's, in my opinion, more frustrating to be an Android developer. If you get frustrated with stuff like that, not everyone does, but I do. But you're gonna reach more people, right? And you have more access to more stuff. Builds take a while, so does iOS, but anyway. And then Kotlin. Any questions about Android or new to iOS? All right. For iOS, you use Xcode. I'm sure we all know that. Your views are view controller objects, view files and objects. We have delegates, protocols for kind of using as like interfaces that you would in Java or something like that. You can write your UIs in storyboards, which are really interesting, and they did it a lot better than like the Android way of using their UI. But storyboard's not great because the version control collisions, like conflicts, are a nightmare to fix. So if you have two people working on the same storyboard file, you don't want to do that. And then, I don't know why I wrote strings, but, because we had resources in Android. So strings, like localization, so string files where you just dump a huge list of all your localizations. And then it will just pick the right one based on the locale of the user's phone. So that's pretty nice. For UI implementation, you can do storyboards, which is that picture on the left. And you can drag and drop. You can really see the flow of your app. It's actually pretty nice. You can have some stuff that you don't even need code for. You can build a whole app with no code, just using storyboards. And just click and drag. This button goes to this screen, and it's called a segue. And then you tell it what to do, when to do it, any animations you want, stuff like that. Pretty cool. Or you can do it programmatically. So on the right, this is using a CocoaPod called, what's it called? I'm forgetting what it's called. But, Snap, that's right, Snap UI. It makes it really easy to just lay out a view in, at least one element in like 4 lines and put all the constraints, right? We have to deal with multiple screen sizes because that's the world we live in, right? So you want to do things without hard-coded values. You want to use constraints. And before, you had this huge long line of text that says like NS layout constraint, new, and then like left relationship, top right bottom. And with this plugin, it just makes it really nice. It's like 4 lines of code. So doing things programmatically in iOS is a lot easier than Android for sure, and it's just super clean. Swift UI is new, and I haven't used this yet. But once React Native came out, or React came out, everyone loved it. And so this is a similar-ish to React way of doing views in Swift. It's called Swift UI, where you can mix, your layout, your view logic, and your data and kind of business logic in one place if you wanted to. Again, I haven't used it yet, and I haven't used it yet because we were supporting older versions of iOS, and we couldn't use it until we stopped supporting older versions of iOS. Right, so again, that whole operating system version thing is a real issue when you're a developer, and if your company doesn't want to move away from version 10 of iOS, guess what? You can't use the new features, right? So the pros are there's a lot less operating system fragmentation because people upgrade faster. iOS simulators are amazing. Android emulators are terrible. So that's a big pro for iOS. I think it's a cleaner overall user experience. The really nice thing about Apple is they own the hardware and they own the software. And so everything from the developer experience, I think, to the user experience, it's just smoother, it's just clean. So it really makes a difference developing. Although Xcode's not great. Xcode is, I don't understand why Xcode is 30 gigs. Literally, it's 30 gigs. You download it, you unload it, you unpack it, it's literally 30 gigabytes. It blows my mind. And it's just slow. So that's my first con on that list. You gotta go through the App Store review process if you wanna submit something to the App Store. So you gotta follow the Apple, you gotta please the Apple gods. Storyboard files, again, they're great if you wanna build an app with no code, but conflicts are terrible if you have multiple people using the same, working on the same file. And builds also take a while, just like in Android. If you're an OG iOS developer, you might have written Objective-C. Has anyone here done Objective-C? No, one guy, all right. Otherwise, you're doing Swift, right? It's the hot new thing, it's pretty cool. Did I put the answer? No, okay. So the question, after we get out of iOS, is what would you do if you wanted your app on both platforms? Someone say React Native. Yeah, but back in the day, you'd write it twice. So that's what you had to do back then. React Native didn't exist. So people came up with solutions, right? We're developers, we like to innovate, we problem solve, that's what we do. So how did it look at the beginning? At the beginning, cross-platform development was done with web views. So native apps basically just hosted web views to display screens that were written in HTML. You know, HTML, CSS, JavaScript, whatever. And so the pros there, you have a shared code base, right? Your backend developers can, or your web developers, your full stack, right, whoever, can write the website and you just make it look good on mobile. And you just put on a web view on your native app, submit that to the App Store, and I mean, you know, in rough terms, and you're off to the races. The cons with that are you're not going to get the look and feel of mobile native, and you're not going to get the performance of mobile. So one thing that came out a lot is, you know, scrolling through large lists, it would be laggy and slow, and it just didn't feel right. And you can't access hardware directly on the phone. So obviously there's ways to do it, but not great. So these are some frameworks that came out at the time for people to start doing that: Ionic, Cordova, PWA, Progressive Web Apps, and PhoneGap. I've never used any of those, but people did them. Oh, actually, my company now, we had a Cordova app that we tried to resurrect, and it was so old. I was like, no, we're not doing this. So I convinced them, let's rewrite this in React Native. So we did. Yeah, that was fun. So this is an example, right? On the left, both of these is Yelp on the left and Facebook on the right. The left image of either one is the native view. The right image is, you can see it's in a browser. They look virtually identical, right? So you can make it look the same. It's not gonna feel the same. It's gonna behave a little bit differently, but you can get by, right? If you're a massive company, you don't wanna pay 2 development teams to go write a 30-screen app, right? Pay 1 team and you're done. But it's not the same. So that's how cross-platform mobile development was. A lot of big words here. Was at the beginning. Then we get into the modern stuff, which is React Native. Thank you, Facebook, for doing this. It's fantastic. You get to write your JavaScript code once, and it will render native UI elements on the phone. I haven't dived into all of the code, but just imagine how you would write that. Taking JavaScript, putting it through a bridge, and then rendering native iOS views or native Android views dynamically based on JavaScript. Crazy. Totally crazy. Like, I bow to the Facebook developers, man. Like, that's nuts. So, shared code between the 2 platforms, already huge, right? Pro number 1, dev time. People were developing their apps 10 times faster in React Native than native. And you still get that native look and feel. One reason why it's that much faster is because you get instant build time. if you're developing for React Native and it's all run by JavaScript, and you make one change, you hit save, all you have to do is update the JavaScript on the phone or the simulator or the emulator. You don't have to update the native layer. All you do is send the new bundle.js file, and it just re-renders it in seconds. Way faster than native. And if you need to, you can drop into the native layer and write iOS code and Android code across the bridge. One con here was performance, because now the phone has to parse all the JavaScript, and it can get very jumpy and jittery sometimes, and transitions aren't always great. But it was worth it for a lot of companies to make the switch, and many did. So this is what React Native looks like. It's all JavaScript, and this is TypeScript. And you just put your views, right there in code, and your whatever data you need, you just plug it in. Really, really cool stuff.
There's
Yeah.
no TypeScript. I don't see any types or anything. It's all JavaScript.
Yeah, no, that's true in this file.
This TSX.
It is a TSX file, but you're right. And so what came after this, right? It keeps on evolving. After React Native came out, this company decided they're going to take it up a notch. And they're called Expo. Has anybody heard of Expo? A few people. Okay. But we've all heard of React Native? Yeah? Okay. Expo is amazing. What Expo did was they decided we're going to write the base Android app and the base iOS app for you. And all of the typical stuff you're going to need, camera, Bluetooth, whatever. So that you as a developer, all you have to do is JavaScript. If you need to drop into the native layer, fine. You can eject from Expo and you can drop into the native layer if you need something custom. It really changed the game. So the pros there, they wrote all the native boilerplate stuff. It also allowed hot releases. So because Expo wrote the boilerplate iOS and Android code, the app you ship to the App Store is the same exact one that Expo wrote. So if you want to have a update go out to your users, technically, nothing changed in that boilerplate app. All you have to update is your JavaScript. You can do that with your Expo server or your own server or whatever. No more App Store review process. It's gone. It's a lot more like the web, where you upload your new, or you deploy your new version, and everyone gets it instantly. One big thing with mobile development is whenever you release a version, you have to assume it's out there forever, because someone's always going to be on it. People don't upgrade. Someone will always be on version 1.0.0, and their client is going to be calling your backend. It's always going to exist, so you have to assume that. It's a lot easier to share builds across the team because there's just ways of doing it. Again, all they're doing on their phone is downloading a JavaScript bundle. So they don't have to go through TestFlight or Hockey app, which you guys might or might not know about, but it's just so much easier to share within your team for testers. And no more native projects in your repo. So I'll show you guys that in a little bit. I've got a slide somewhere. But with React Native, you would have an Android project folder and an iOS project folder in your repo, and Expo got rid of those because you don't need to touch them. All you have to touch is JavaScript. The cons here are you can't really access the device hardware if you had to. With Expo, there's no native layer. If you want to, you have to eject from Expo, and then you can do some native stuff. Now we get fun stuff. Any questions about any of the stuff we just talked about so far?
So, with React, isn't it a case of you don't necessarily need to make an app? Web browsers?
Well, that goes back to the initial platform development side, right? Where you're still not going to get that native look and feel. For the look, you can get close, but it won't be the same. So you could have an app that is React, web-based, and responsive, and then the user on Safari on their iPhone can save it to their homepage, right? So you can do that. It's just not going to be the same look and feel, same responsiveness as an actual app. But depending on what the company is and what you're doing, you might not need an actual app in the app stores, right? You're not going to get the reviews on the app store, and you can't advertise on the app store and stuff like that. So it just depends on the needs of the company, but I'm sure plenty of people are doing that too. So yeah. Any other questions?
Do you have to make like special
Yes.
security considerations for things like on Android where you have the exposed framework and stuff where people can go in and screw with your runtime a little bit? For jailbroken Android phones or even jailbroken iOS, I think.
Yeah, you mean for React Native?
For React Native as well as the native development.
For like iOS?
For Android specifically for Expo's framework.
Oh, for Expo's framework.
Yeah.
That's a good question. I haven't heard it come up in the past few years of doing Expo stuff. So again, if Expo wrote that boilerplate, they're handling it, right? Because you're not touching anything natively. So you kind of, you trust your tools. You have to trust your tools. So if you're using that, then that's something they would take care of. So on the other hand,
So I know it used to be you needed like if you're gonna develop and publish on a Mac, for like an iOS device, you need a Mac OS machinist, or even just like a little like iMac or the iMac Mini.
Yeah.
Is that still the case? Do you still need access to some kind of Apple hardware to do that last step?
great question.
Xcode or Swift already, yeah.
You need Apple hardware to run on an iPhone or an iPhone simulator. Actually, I have to take that back. All the way up through React Native, yes. But again, you can write your React Native app on a Windows, and then your coworker on a Mac can just pull it down and run it on a phone,
And do that last step there.
right? With Expo, it's super cool. You can write your app, you can do it on Windows. Because it's just a JavaScript file, it's going to give you a QR code. And you can scan the QR code, like literally in the terminal, QR code, right? When you say Expo run, there's a QR code. You scan it with your Expo app on your phone, and it will run it for you. So you can have a Windows machine and an iPhone, and you can do iOS development.
And can you publish the App Store too? Can you generate the package you need without basically you have to have a Mac to still publish iOS apps using this technology?
You can use a build server,
Okay.
right? So now. Yeah.
That's curious.
Yeah, so it opens the gates, right? Pretty cool. Any other questions? Sweet. How are we doing on time, by the way? I've not been looking. We're good? All right. So, bleeding edge cross-platform development. Here we go. What do we even mean by bleeding edge? What do I mean? I mean, I wrote this. So, I think the answer is one code base to rule them all. I want to write my app logic once, and I want it to run natively anywhere, whether that's iOS, Android, Windows, Mac, desktop, whatever. And we're going to talk about some problems that are still being solved today. So that's the goal, right? This is the goal. And this is possible. This was not possible a few years ago. So the first question is, what about the web? Here's that QR code I was telling you about, right? This is my terminal. When you do like Expo run, it spits it out. You press A to open on Android on the emulator or your phone. Press I to open on the iOS simulator. It just does it. And then recently this new one came out. Press W to open on the web. And it will. It'll run your code on the web. So it's interesting because we took React, which was a web thing. We brought it to native, called it React Native, and now we're taking it back to the web. So it's a little weird, right? It's confusing. But React on the web, you still have access to divs and spans and p tags and h tags and all that. On React Native, it's just text tags, and view tags, and that's it, and buttons. So it's all abstracted down to the most basic layer you need to. And then we take that and run it on Android, iOS, or web, right? You don't need spans and divs and h tags and all that, right? You just text or view, that's all it is. You just style it however you want to. So that's super cool. And when that came out, like it just blew my mind. I was like, this is awesome. And we have the devs at Twitter to thank for this. Twitter put a lot of time, or at least the developers there put time into this, and made it run on the web. I believe Twitter is React Native running on the web. What's up?
I said now most of them don't have jobs.
You know, the economy. And Elon. So what's Expo actually doing? So this is what I was talking about before. So React Native, that's the logo. The atom is the React, right? React Native. If you look at the file structure, there's an Android folder and there's an iOS folder. Those folders literally contain the entire Android project and the entire iOS project in those folders. And so Expo came along and got rid of those, and there's now only a source folder, which you can also see on the left-hand side. And they abstracted away that native layer. And so now you get a web, or you can run native, and you can run on the web. And it runs on the web as a SPA, as a single page application. We're gonna dive into that, what exactly that is in a minute. And so the problem with React is that it is a SPA. For some developers, for some companies, depending on what your app is, or your business is, or your website is, there are several problems that they're still trying to solve, but one of them is that you lose SEO. Because if you're rendered on the client, right, the backend, your server delivers a JavaScript bundle to the client on the front end, it parses all of that and renders your app at wherever you are based on the URL, and boom, you have an app. So you don't get SEO because Google servers and everything are just going to ask your server for the thing, and if they get a JavaScript bundle, they're like, I don't know what to do with this. You also get a little bit slower performance, and then there's more issues. The biggest one is the SEO. In my company, we're not concerned about SEO, and we haven't really dived into all of these, but if you Google like what are the problems with React and why we're doing the next thing, you'll hear why it's all going on. Again, I'm a mobile guy, not a web guy, so I don't know all the issues. But this is what I was talking about. So on the left side, this is a Expo web application with the console open, and it shows you at the bottom, line 116, bundle.js. When you inspect the source code, that's what you see. So the client is just receiving a JavaScript bundle, and all of the logic is in that JavaScript bundle, right? It's all there. So that's all that you're really running. So what can we do instead? How do we fix that, right? We're not, like we said, this doesn't work for SEO. Some of you guys might have heard of the next thing, which is next.js. Have you guys heard of that? You're learning it? Nice. So some of us, cool. You guys are web developers, I imagine, right? Yeah. No, you're everything. All right, there you go. So React plus Next, right? Next is built on React. You get SSR applications, server-side rendering, which at first I was like, what does that even mean? Basically, the server is going to do the rendering for you and then send you the HTML instead of the JavaScript. Basically what that means. So before, we have this React Expo web app, and all we have is a JavaScript bundle. And you can see that's line 116, and we're at the bottom of the file. Next comes along, same app, line 700 something, and we actually get HTML, right? You can see right there, insights, that's from the title, placeholder for email and password, right? It's actually rendering the views. So it's pretty cool. That blows my mind. It's so cool. For the people who care about SEO and all that stuff, it's just like, wow, right? Going from even the one on the left, like even running React Native on the web, already super cool, right? You write your code once, it's in 3 places. It's awesome. But there is a challenge to combine Expo and Next, because Next is a very different way of doing things. But we love Expo. So like, how do we take Expo, which is amazing, and Next, which I guess is amazing. And how do we combine them together, right? If we really want to be on the bleeding edge and use the newest stuff, how do we do it? This is Expo again, right? So that's the same one that was on the right before, that's this on the left. So we have our Expo folders, our .expo, that's kind of just project files. And then our source code. What I was doing with my company is I was trying to figure out how we do this, because we're writing a new app, we're doing it in Expo, and it's the mobile version of the web application that we already have, which is also not great. And my boss at the time really wanted to use Expo for the mobile stuff and Next for the web stuff for if/when we ever rewrote the web. And me being me, I'm like, there's gotta be a way. There's gotta be a way to put these together. And people are starting to talk about this on the internet. So I was perusing and I started doing what React Native does, or what Expo does, where what if we have a repo with an Expo folder and a Next folder, and then just a source folder of all the other stuff. I called it Expo. And it works. It freaking works. Like, this blows my mind, guys, that we can really be on the bleeding edge with all this stuff. You can literally run iOS, Android web, one code base, using Next, bleeding edge, right? Newest way of doing things on the web. React Native, newest way of doing things on mobile, and it's all the same. You save a file, you get an instant update, because it's React. You can share 100% of your business logic, because why would that change? You can share maybe 90% of your UI and your component logic. You get the latest and greatest on native, you get the latest and greatest on web. This is freaking cool. As I started figuring this out, I was like, this just blows me. It's compared to how things work, right? Anyone who's done mobile for as long as I have, you're like, wow. We're not going to get too crazy, but you guys want to see a demo?
Please.
Yeah. Quick little demo. All right. That's probably way more precarious. Okay, can I just not use this?
Yeah, you
Or
can sit down.
do we need it for the stream?
It should be here.
Okay. I need a mirror displays. Display settings. Use as mirror. All right. Any questions, by the way, before we kind of jump into this? Yeah.
I'm kind of curious, the layer that you made, did you have to make something that like compiled one into the other, or did you more like call the APIs of two different things to make them work in a new way? Or something else?
Neither. So there's another guy, I forget his name. I forget his name. But he wrote a software or a framework called Solido, which is his way of doing things. And it's actually pretty cool, because here's the challenge, right? The challenge with having the same code base for mobile and web is navigation. On phones, you get stacks, and you get tabs, and you get sidebars and stuff, right? And there's no URLs. On web, it's all URLs, and everything's a page, or you can have tabs and like sidebars and hamburgers, right? But you route via URLs and back buttons. iOS doesn't have back buttons, right? So that's a challenge. And so he's probably kind of a genius, and he wrote Solido to do all of that literally share. For whatever reason, we didn't want to use that. And so what I built is I took his way of combining the two in the kind of monorepo, but not sharing 100% of everything, right? So we can still have separate views. But basically, it's as simple as you have your Expo folder, you have your Next folder, and a shared folder, and you write your components, things that you want to share in the shared folder, excuse me, and then you just reference that stuff in the Expo and the Next ones. You just import it from that path, and you can use the components component or the view just in your code. It just, like, it's crazy. It just works. It's so, so cool. If you can't tell, I like this stuff. Okay, so we can all see this, yeah? And while that gets going, I unfortunately have to open Android Studio to run the simulator, the emulator. I can just close that. Yep. And go to Virtual Device Manager. If my computer grinds to a halt, don't be surprised. Android emulators take up a lot of resources. Okay, so you have that running. So here's Expo. I'm gonna hit I. You can see at the bottom it's opening iOS. Actually, that was the wrong command.
Is Expo a free product, or is it paid or something?
Expo's a free product. Yeah. If you want to use their servers to build and deploy, then that's paid. Yeah. Otherwise, you can get started for free right now. Did I see another hand? No. Yeah, that was the wrong command. So, I'm in the root repo, so I'm just gonna run like a command that CDs in and then runs the native, right? So you can always abstract that stuff away. npm run native, I believe. Go. So, like, this would have taken minutes, right? Any build in iOS takes a few minutes. In Android, it can take a few minutes. Literally just hit one button. That took what, 10 seconds? So that was iOS. iOS is up and running. Hey. Let's let that figure its life out for a second. Wait. Here it goes. Boom, Android. And now I need to run a different command for web. Android, iOS, and web. And this is running Next.js. So if we with Command J, I should do this. Oh, no, Shift I. Command Shift I. It's Safari, so it's different. Nope, wasn't that. Let's just do it the old-fashioned way. Inspect. Let's not do that way. But you can see here we have a div. Right, this is an A tag. This is an A tag. This is it. So, right, that perfect world of the future of one code base to rule them all, where everything's running natively. That's what we have here. And it updates in seconds. So, let's see. I'm trying to remember where I was going with this. But, all right, so here we have, I don't have the tabs on the bottom right on the web. But if I go to like this items tab, we have some machines, right? I can go via this link on Android, and wow, okay, this happens. The Android's emulator literally freezes, so I can't tap anything on it right now. Another reason why, oh, there we go. Another reason why Android is, there we go. Okay, so that went to item 3 via a link. So it linked to it, and then it used the ID in that link to highlight the item, right? So what's cool about this is you can write your native code in a way where you do a route via URLs. Now you have one consistent way to navigate through your app, which works on web and mobile. And that makes sense, right? URLs are great at what they do. Let's bring those to native. Why not? So here on the web, I can go via a link, and you can see in the URL bar, we have /items, /item ID, item ID 2, right? So index 2 gives you machine 3. And I can use backblasts. So we have this user tab. We can go to user. That navigates with a parameter, so you can see this one says param1, these say none. But I can go to, I can do the same thing on these. So let's make an update. Let's update, what file was it? Yeah, so here's this detail screen right here. I'm just gonna uncomment this and save. And literally in a second, it's just boom, it's there. I know you guys are awestruck in silence. But in my mind, I'm like, this, I would much rather do this than iOS or Android. It's just so cool. And then the repo, kind of what I showed earlier, we have the next folder, the Expo folder, and then this shared stuff that's in this kind of package. And everything is just used from here and imported into there. So, yeah.
So if you haven't even started like development of your app, but you pretty much doing the web, would this speed up development of getting the app set up?
But you pretty much what? Say that last part again. If you know you want to build your app, but you pretty much.
Would this help speed up the development time? If you haven't even started developing in an app?
It depends if you want it on all the platforms. Right? If you want it natively in the App Store and the Play Store and the website,
Yeah.
then 100%, definitely. It'll speed it up by at least 10 times, for sure, using Expo. Yeah.
How do you do the testing? Do you have need different phones and test and all that?
Yeah, just like this, right? So you have simulators, and so I can come here and say device. I thought it was device. Here we go. Open simulator, iPhone. Let's do the SE, which is tiny and has square screens. Right, and so if I come here, where is my terminal? This. I think that's going to open on, yes, perfect. Right, boom. This is going to run on the SE. So you can test your square screen phones, your round screen phones, your Android phones, and your web.
Yeah, but you only test the front end, right? Do you test the back end also?
You don't need to test the backend on the UI, right?
Okay. Because next Expo is only UI. level.
Well, Next is a front-end framework.
Okay.
Yeah, Next is a front-end
How
framework.
do you test the back end?
That's a question for the back-end people. Again, I'm not a full-stack mobile guy.
We have a question.
Yeah.
It's a different
Have you tried Next 13?
Simulator will
That just
connect.
came out.
Next, is that the one with the layout stuff?
I don't know, but it's super different than Next 12.
So Next 13 has,
I forgot what the differences were.
yeah, they still do the file-based structure, right, for routing. So that's one thing that people love about Next. So in Next, you have this pages folder, and then all of these account items, users, subfolders are routes for your URLs in your app. So within users, there's this ID file. I don't know if you guys can see that. There's this ID file, which is in brackets, meaning it's a variable. And people love using that. And so I wrote this thing called useXparam, which will just, pull the ID param and you can just use it, right? And this is a shared, or no, that's the Expo, the Next file. And that's a different thing, right? Expo doesn't have file-based navigation. So you can't really have exactly the same file. So you have some wrapper files, but it's 10 lines of code to wrap something. It's not a big deal. But to answer your question, yeah, it has this new way of doing layouts, but it's still backwards compatible. So if
Yeah.
you use Next 13, you can still do this stuff.
We use Next 13 on, or we went to Next 13 at our company, but we had to downgrade to Next 12 because like I think there was some support issues with like third-party tooling. It's so new. I think it was more
Yeah.
like the deploy pipeline.
Okay.
But I don't know. I just wanted to, yeah.
Yeah, I haven't used it. I'm actually going to push my company to not use Next because I don't think we need it. We don't need SEO. I'd rather just do the Expo web, the spa, the single page. What is interesting is Expo's next version is going to have file-based navigation. So these worlds really are blending and merging, right? If you can get on top of some of this stuff, and you can be like the only developer like the startup needs, like, you know, you'd be so valuable.
Wait, so you don't have to do like tab navigator on React Native anymore if you're using Next.js?
No, you'll still want your navigation to be a little bit different from the UI perspective.
Okay.
Right? But all your screens should be the same, and then the container of those will just look a little different. Right? Instead of your tabs being at the bottom, they'll be at the top.
Okay. That makes sense.
Yeah, I haven't gotten too into all those details myself yet, as far as like the different types of navigators, but it can't be that much different. You know?
That's curious.
Yeah. Yeah.
So for some of the slightly different like UI aspects, like from the Android to iOS, it has like the little hamburger menu in the top corner for one of them. Is
That's
that like a conditional? Or
that's
how does it
supposed to
know?
be here. It's just white. That's that button is there. But it can be. So you can do if platform equals iOS, do this.
Oh.
If platform equals web, do this. Yeah, and you can do that in line. It's not even more lines of code. That's how cool this stuff is. There we go. But yeah, good question. I don't think this has anything in it. Yeah, it's not even letting me click. Another frustration with Android. Yeah, right. You feel my pain. Can I hit this button? Nope, can't even hit that button. I think I saw another hand over here somewhere. Maybe. No. Yeah.
What was your background before you got into maybe I missed it a little bit late, but what did you do before you got into
I was in high school.
You went straight into it.
Yeah, so once I was in college, I think it was my first iOS class, which is not an official class. It was like a student talk class. I just liked it, and then I think there was an Android class that year too that I took. This is freaking out. And yeah, my first internship was Android. My second internship was iOS, and I just never wanted to specialize. So I've always done both everywhere I've been. Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know if you had more to speak about, but I was just wondering, you mentioned that a lot of the stuff doesn't deal with native functionality well. Is there, or internal sensors and stuff, is there other tools you recommend to enable that? Any that are cross device?
No, Expo does all that for you. Right. At this point, it's come so far that they have all of that written. Or you just import a JavaScript library that somebody else wrote. But if you want to release with Expo, you have to use stuff that's already built in. And they have that super configurable now. 2 years ago, it wasn't that way, but now it is.
So you can't add any third-party libraries to Expo?
On the native level, no. On the JavaScript level, you can do whatever you want. Yeah.
Are there any limitations, big limitations that you know of, as far as what you can access on the device with Expo?
Not that I know of. There's got to be. For example, it also depends on how you're going to communicate. So with my company, we have a customer app, can NFC pay for machines, right? With an NFC tab. I would be very surprised if I could do that via Expo because of the frameworks that we would have to use for that communication. So if we did that in React Native, it would have to be vanilla React Native without Expo, I'm guessing. because it's our custom hardware too, which has a specific protocol, right? But there are NFC, there has to be, right? I don't know, but there's got to be NFC libraries within the Expo boilerplate apps. So a lot of stuff is taken care of for them. Yeah.
So it's surprising to me that you, would you say that it's fair to say that you're in embedded software sort of, since you're with washing machines, or is it?
No, I still do front end.
No, but I mean like in terms of the company, because I think like if you were doing front end for say a washing machine or something like that, wouldn't it have to do like direct interfacing with like say sensors or?
Well, that's the hardware people's job.
Well, yeah. The thing is, if it's not, if for instance with Expo or whatever it was, if you have to come out of the app in order to use, like for instance, to access the, I don't know, the native, maybe it's a Java runtime or something else, or C++ or what have you. Like you don't have any use cases where you have to do anything like that with your washing machines or anything like that?
So no, because all of this stuff I'm building is just the front end client. It runs on the phone or on the web.
Oh, so this is for the phone?
This, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
This is not on the device itself. Okay.
This is not on the washing machine itself.
Right. Okay. I got you.
Yes, correct. Yep.
Um,
Unless this ran in a web view on the machine
yeah, that's
screen.
what I was thinking. Like that would be pretty gnarly.
That would be pretty gnarly. But you can always, well, it depends on the operating system of the washing machine. But
Yeah.
you could communicate via a bridge, right? Just like on iOS and Android, you've got the bridge between web views and native. There's probably with a session, right? You could potentially use like the session, which you can access on the web, and use that to pull data. So like, in theory, you could run this on.
Yeah, but no one would do this.
Yeah, this is all just the front end client.
Another question. So, like the elephant in the room is, what do you have any opinions or thoughts on Flutter, or do you know anything about it?
I wouldn't touch it. Right, because React Native just dominates the market share.
I think actually, Flutter this past year, there was some survey that it was like right above React Native now. I think I'd have to look.
That would surprise me if that's true. Yeah, I haven't looked at it, but that would really surprise me if it's true. People were saying when React Native came out, it wasn't performant enough.
Yeah.
With rendering like lists and stuff like that. So some people switched to Flutter to get that performance. What's interesting is React Native though is so big and so popular. Discord and one other company, I forget, have put a lot of effort in open sourcing some more performant React Native libraries.
Against Microsoft?
Yeah.
Second.
Okay, I don't know. Yeah, I'm not sure. To answer your question though, I did not have much more to talk about. So just going back to the takeaways, how awesome 2023 is for mobile development. You can kill 3 birds with 1 stone, right? 4, because eventually, if not already, I haven't tried it, you can take that same code base and run it natively for desktop, Mac or Windows, and then you can run it on Xbox, and then you can run it on whatever else comes next, right? They really are making this one code base to rule them all. So keep improving, keep up with the market because it's changing fast, and you can become a lot more valuable to your company as a developer if you can do all these things. And not only that, you're going to save so much time, right? So much time. And so many headaches, Android. But so many headaches, you're just not going to have them. And it's just better to develop fast. And we all like instant gratification, right? So React Native gives us that. And again, like the choice is yours, right? If you want to be, if you want to specialize, you can. If you don't, you can do like what I did and not. If you want to travel and work at the same time, you can. If you want to just hang out in Tampa because it's awesome, you can do that too. But that was pretty much it. So thanks, guys. I saw there was another hand over here. Yeah.
Just to throw a fun twist on this, I just got contacted by a guy with a potential job. His first question, how am I with React?
There you go. So if you can do React, that's React Web, right? Then you can also build them an mobile app if they want it.
What do you do outside of work? What is your kind of hobbies are you into? Do you have any personal projects you're working on?
So I like to dance. So going back to, was it Vincent's point, how we all met dancing? So Tampa Devs was actually my first friend group here. I moved here a year ago, and I was at their, I guess, second meetup. And I was sitting in the back of the room because I didn't know anybody, and I hear someone whisper to someone, "We met salsa dancing." And I was like, wait a minute. I'm in a room full of nerds, including me, who hears salsa dances besides me? And it was Harry talking to Jonah. And I knew I was in the right place. I knew I was. Ever since that, I was like, software developers who dance and like to work out, yep, here we go. I think Vincent mentioned in some of the stuff that I'm building my own website called Lazy Boots. I'm not building that anymore, but it was trying to build technical analysis to real estate. And I built all of that in React on the web. So if any of you guys want to talk real estate, we can talk real estate. Other than that, I'm starting like a coaching, trying to transition into coaching stuff because something I'm more passionate about, even though I'm super passionate about this, if you couldn't tell. Otherwise, I like to cook. Food is good. You asked about my hobbies, so. Yeah.
So what kind of led you up to deciding to just pick up and just travel, or were you like just okay, yeah, I just want to see more of the world of it? I'm kind of the same way at this point right now.
Yeah, no, for sure. And for me, as with most people that I asked when I was traveling, you go through a breakup and you're like, well, shit. I don't want to be here anymore. And so you get up and go, because that's what I did. But also, I knew I didn't feel like where I was. I was living in Oakland, California, and I was just like, I don't want to live here forever. This doesn't feel like home for me. And so I saw an ad for one of the first digital nomad companies, and I was like, that looks cool. I want to do that.
What's that game in particular?
So I didn't travel with them, but they're called Remote Year. And you have to go for a full year with them. Well, they've changed it now. You can go more ad hoc. But I ended up traveling with Wi-Fi Tribe. I think I know the people are amazing, and it's very much month to month, so you can be more flexible. So that's who I went with. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I want to try and get into that lifestyle.
Yeah.
I'm kind of like a weird position in my life.
Yeah. Do it. Definitely.
Again, like business card if you don't mind.
Yeah, we can exchange contact after, and you can also, you guys can hit me up here.
Okay.
As well. But yeah, definitely reach out. Yeah.
It's kind of a one-off. Have you ever messed around with pine phones yet?
With
The pine phones?
pine cones?
Pine phones.
Pine phones?
Yeah.
I do not know what a pine phone is.
It's a phone
Is it like the next Fire phone from Amazon?
No, it's
I probably won't touch it if it is.
It's an open source project in there that runs Linux. It runs Arch Linux instead of Android or iOS on like some really jank hardware. But it's really cool. It's been a lot of progress.
Okay, it's like a Linux-based open source operating system for the phone.
Pretty much.
Cool. Haven't heard of it, but
Yeah.
we'll see how it does, right?
It's still in its infancy.
Yeah, I like to just watch those things and see how they do. And if they make it to the market, great.
Yeah.
If not, great. Yeah. Yeah.
So none of your travel was actually for work, it was all through these three digital nomad companies?
Yeah.
Did they put you up in like a room and provide you with everything that you need?
Yep. You just choose, they have their whole calendar set out, you know. January in Mexico, February in Colombia, right? And different cities within there. Some of them have multiple going at the same time, so you can just say, I want to go show up to this one. So as long as you have a remote job, which most of us basically do, right? You just show up, and the one that I was with, they just cover your room, and it's co-living, right? Co-living, co-working, and so you show up, there's like 20 other people, and they make sure you have good Wi-Fi. You just show up and off you go. So it was crazy. My first day, I remember, I left California, flew out of LAX. I was going to Bolivia, which I never thought I'd ever go to. I had a layover, and I chose the flights accordingly, right? But I flew on a Thursday, landed in Columbia Airport in the morning, had a layover for 10 hours, So I worked from the Columbia airport and then flew to Bolivia. Got there like 3 in the morning, and then we just rode ATVs all day in the mountains. Saturday and then Sunday over the weekend. So, yeah, your work is separate, right? You just want to tell them / ask them that I'm going to be traveling, right? And then it's just a question of time zones, right? What time zone are you in? Are we overlapping? That kind of stuff.
How did you handle time zone differences?
Do you have one more thing?
I was just gonna ask, how long did you do?
I was traveling full time for 2 years. Yeah, some people go 5. They're crazy. But then I lived in Puerto Rico for 3 years, so that kind of still counts. Time zones. I was in South America most of the time, and the company I was working for, iFit, was in Utah, and so it's basically the same. Maybe 1 or 2 hours difference, big deal. I did go to Italy for a month, and that was interesting. So with them, I just said, okay, what are we going to overlap? And it worked out where my 8 a.m. was their midnight, so I worked 4 hours that they wouldn't get me for, and then I would chill for 4 hours from my 8 in the morning to noon, and then I'd work another 4 hours, and that was their 8 in the morning. So I overlapped 4 hours from their 8 in the morning to their lunch. Yeah, and then I would just have 4 hours in the middle of the day to just walk the streets and eat gelato. It was great. I was talking with my coworkers because every Monday, like, oh, how was your weekend and all this stuff. And most of them were dads working on their houses. I took the kids to the park, and I was like, I went to Venice for the weekend. Bought some shoes. Yeah, it's so fun. Like, I highly recommend it. You know, for anyone that wants to kind of live that life, it's life changing for sure. You'll grow and learn a lot.
So I'm a digital nomad too.
Nice.
But I've only been doing it in North America, between Canada, the United States, and Mexico.
Okay.
For only 15 months or so.
Yeah.
What's the visa situation like in the country that you're going to? Will they ask you at the gate, are you going to be working here? In which case you have to pay taxes. How's that work?
Yeah. No, it's a really good question. You want to show up as a visitor. Who happens to have a laptop? You just happen to have a laptop. Because
you're a tourist.
You're a tourist, yeah. What they care about from the work side usually is if you're going to be getting a job in the country, which you're not. You're not, right? So technically you're a tourist. But some countries are recognizing this whole digital nomad and are having digital nomad visas. Portugal being one of them. I think there's another one, I just can't think of it right now. So they're opening up. But depending on the country, a lot of those tourist visas are 90 days. So you can hang out for 90 days.
Do you have to keep a U.S. residence or something for tax purposes? Or at least an address?
Yes, you do. Yeah, because you're not filing taxes in whatever city or whatever country you're in, right? You're still filing American. Yeah. And technically it's wherever you lived before you left, I think.
So you're still paying California state taxes?
No.
While you're gone?
I was. And then I moved to Florida.
You get a virtual mailbox. You like a virtual address for $10 a month.
Yeah, that's basically what I did.
So if they never check your company.
My company? Oh, they knew where I was. I told them. Yeah. But they were okay with me traveling. I was remote by default. So. What?
Some companies are not remote.
Yeah, exactly. So I was working for Pandora, right? I asked them and they said no. And I get it. I was working with car head units, right? I had like a big Ford thing on my desk. Like, I get it. But I would rather travel, so I left and worked for a company that would like me. Yeah.
So it looks like you always had Wi-Fi, but the time you were on the boat, did you have internet issues? How did you deal with that? At times you did have internet issues.
Yeah, so I have Google Fi for my phone provider, which works pretty much everywhere, and I can hotspot. And I was on that boat trip actually with people from Wi-Fi trucks, so they all brought hotspots. Yeah, but you just bring hotspots. And, if you're in a different country, you just buy a SIM card. Try to max it out for speed-wise, because you're not going to get what we're used to here.
So you didn't get like a satellite thing?
No, I've never done a satellite thing, but I could.
So there is something on Google that you should like
Oh yeah, I love Google software. Like yeah, yeah, I love Google software, just not their hardware. Well, some of their hardware's not right.
Pixel? Pixel bad.
I have a Pixel for developing on it if I need to.
Next time. On. What's your name?
Yeah.
D or Deron. Nice to meet you. I'm Jonathan.
Any other questions? All right.
It's another country that you like besides Malaysia. That's not overcrowded yet.
That's not overcrowded yet.
Everybody likes Costa Rica because that's where everybody's going. That's
Yeah.
why it's so expensive. So like,
Costa Rica was nice. I have some friends that were looking at buying property in Mexico, like certain cities in Mexico that are still dirt roads, but they love it there. You know, personally, I loved Italy. Italy, like I could totally live in there. Yeah, it was really nice. But yeah, Colombia's good. Portugal's supposed to be good. I just haven't been. I want to do more of Europe as a nomad, but yeah. Cool. Thanks, guys. Thank you.
Right on. Thank you so much, Andre. That was a great presentation. So, next event for Tampa Devs is on the 22nd at Armature Works. You can find more details on our meetup page. As for all the pizza over there, please God, just whatever's left, because we got to clean this space up a bit. I think we're basically, like, we can handle most of the reconfig. Just make sure your space is clean, and thank you again for coming to Tampa Devs.